talk too much football in that first half hour, Matt. We should have brought up the billboard that was on I-49, thanking Sam Pittman for 5 years and saying that there needs to be a change. Strategically placed on I-49 so the team would see it when they bust in from their hotel to Razorback Stadium. So
I don't agree, but yeah, I mean, everybody has their own opinion. I like this group of coaches. I like our defensive coordinator. I like our OC. I hope we get to keep this group together for one more year at least. Have you seen this schedule next year? Like the guys, don't we play the same?
Just add Notre Dame. Yeah.
I don't a change going into that. I mean, we're bowl eligible. I mean, we'll beat La Tech by 3 touchdowns. Are you going to play? How are you going to play against Missouri? We beat one team this year that's going to a bowl game. Could have beat a couple more. I mean, we left some plays out there. I think Taylon Green next year, he's going to be 5 times better next year. Just being in a meeting room for bowl practice, spring ball, summer, all that. Just being around Bobby Petrino and learning the offense and knowing what each other wants out of each other. I think our quarterback play will be better next year.
Let's go to Mike Irwin right now at Pig Trail Nation, joining us on a Monday morning. Good morning, Mike. How you doing today?
Good morning. Yeah. Good. How are you?
Good. I got to ask, what did you think about the billboard?
Well, I thought it was terrible. But what really interested me is reading the reaction to that on social media, because I thought there would be a lot of people, still mad. Yeah, well, he should be a better coach and all that. But the reaction was overwhelmingly negative. I think they understood that you don't disrespect players like that on the way to a game. There was even a rumor, and there's no way to confirm it, that Texas saw that when they were coming to the game. So I don't know. Maybe it motivated them. I don't know. They played a lot better. But, yeah, that's pretty tacky. I guess you could compare it to that stupid airplane thing that flew around that time over the stadium when Houston Nutt was here saying fire Nutt. I mean, there's just people with money to spend, and if you want to spend your money, how about put it into NIL instead of that?
And I appreciate the idea of it's your money. You can do what you want with it. You can put a message up, on a highway if you got the money to spend. It's just it was the design of it and the intent of it of putting that in the player's face on their way to the game. That to me is just a step too far. And then there's the game. All right, so then there's the actual game, in which, I think the game played out the way that a lot of us thought that it would. I wasn't sure if Arkansas would keep Texas to 20, so I was really impressed defensively. Just need some more splash plays defensively. I mean, turnovers, and it was a little bit of the same old story on the offense, Mike.
Well, that's the frustrating thing, because Arkansas has lost 5 games this year. 3 of them were winnable, and all 3 of them, turnovers had a huge effect on the game. So it's a stretch to ask this, but if you ask yourself, what if they didn't have those turnovers, and what if they won those 3 games? Then they'd be 10-2 right now, and with a chance, to win a bowl game. Or I'm sorry, they'd be 8-2 with a chance to go 10-2, and maybe to win a bowl game. So I don't think I've ever watched an Arkansas season in which one thing had such an impact. I think this is a pretty good team. I think it's better than most people realize. But when you throw those turnovers in, it's just made it look like it's kind of a bad team. And I don't think they're bad. That whole thing with the secondary, I don't know what was going on there, but I told you guys last week, I wasn't buying it that they just weren't good enough or there was a bunch of scheme stuff going on. I think Sam Pittman went in there, and when he announced in the off-bye week, none of these jobs are safe, I think it lit a fire into those guys. And then look what happened. Early on, Ewers couldn't find open receivers like 1,001, 1,002 throw the ball, and guess what? He got sacked. So I think the best thing that came out of this game is I think that defense is together again. Now, what they don't need to do is go out and just take Louisiana Tech for granted. You got to win that game, and you got to win it. You got to take command early. But if they do that, then they've got a chance to do something that no Razorback team has done, and that's winning Columbia. So that's a hook going into that last game. And if you win that, you go into the portal. You give your coaches some ammo to bring in some guys out of the portal. There's already rumors floating around that Hunter Yurachek is diverting a bunch of money into that portal, to that last portal class. It's supposedly the last one where NIL is a major factor. Things we've talked about, things change next year supposedly. So if they put real money into the portal and they've got a reason to bring people in here, maybe it sets them up for next year.
Mike, what were your thoughts watching the game? And then you look at the end of it, and Jaquindon Jackson, Rashard Dubinion, 18 total carries. The way they were running, I do not understand how we did not give them the ball more. What were your thoughts on how this offense just, for whatever reason, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And in that third quarter, we had a little bit of a design, a little bit of a scheme, and we looked really good in that third quarter. But for the most part, we wouldn't give the running backs the ball. Nobody can stop Andrew Armstrong. It kind of felt like Taylen Green was pressing all game.
Yeah, I do think the running game got started on that drive with a pretty good completed pass. It wasn't just 5-6 yards. And I've always said, guys, that it works both ways. You got to do both in a drive. If you have a little bit of passing, then your running game's going to work. Or if you're mostly a passing team and you throw in some good running plays, that makes a drive work. So they needed both, but that's about the only time where they had that other drive where you have the fumble on about the 27, 28-yard line, and they were driving in there, and if they'd scored there, it would have been a 3-point game with 6 minutes to go. So they did some things, made some halftime adjustments. I don't know what's in Petrino. Here's the problem with the way Pittman does this on press conferences. You cannot talk to coordinators. There's a ton of questions I'd love to ask Petrino this year. And he's good in press conferences, guys. Everybody complained about him being mean and all this stuff. He was good to the media, and he always showed up on time, and he always answered our questions. I never felt like he was dodging a question. So I would love to be able to ask him some questions like that. Why'd you have a freshman receiver in there at that critical point in the game, and then he ends up with the fumble? Why didn't you run the ball more in the first half? I mean, why aren't you throwing more to Armstrong? Why do you stick with him when he keeps having problems game after game after game? So you'd love to be able to ask him that, but you can't.
No, you can't. I was going to ask you, what questions do you have for Petrino? But it's, I think we had this understanding or this expectation that he was going to add 7-8 points to the offense just magically by him being the coordinator. And you haven't seen that. I think, what you're seeing is a college football offense that's just a little bit slow to develop. There are some signs that there can be something there, but it also feels to me, Mike, and I don't think a lot of people want to hear this, but I think this was a 2-year project with Taylen Green at your quarterback. Now you're going to have a different top receiver next year. You're going to have a different top running back. My expectation would be next year as well. But I think this was a 2-year project with Bobby Petrino and Taylen Green. And texts are coming in about we need a new quarterback for next year. And look, there are definitely some areas where Taylen can improve. And the coaches are well aware of that, but I think they're looking to develop him for next season. And it's not like, okay, whatever happens this year is fine. We'll just develop him next year. But that to me is what they brought him in here for, and I don't think that's changed.
Yeah, and if you go back to look at Petrino's first year here, I think they won 5 games. But they were coming on at the end of the year. They had that last win in Little Rock. What a place Little Rock is. And it's a lot of it is just the night game atmosphere. And that was another thing. When I saw that 11 a.m. kickoff of this Texas game way back weeks ago, I went, uh-oh. In fact, guys, I went back and looked because the fans are all mad about how they play at home, why the Pittman's teams are so bad at home. In 11 a.m. start times, in the 5 seasons under Pittman, they're 2-8 in conference games. But if you include the Texas game in 2021, which wasn't a conference game but was like a conference game, they're 3-1 at home in night games. They just don't get to play enough night games here, and that's the TV people. So that's part of the issue here. But Petrino this team was a lot better in year 2 under him, and it was year 3 when they really caught fire. So what he tries to do, to me, is complex. I don't think you're seeing all the offense that he would have installed next. I think he'll have a more diverse package next year. I think he'll have a better idea of who he has. And if I know him the way I think I know him, here's what he's going to do to Taylen Green in the offseason. He's going to make a reel that shows every mistake that he made in every game and put that on a reel and say, go in there and watch it over and over and over. I want you watching it all during the off season so that when we start spring, you know what you have to avoid. So I agree with you. I think in year 2, he's going to do a better job, and if he's still here in year 3, I think he'll do an even better job.
Well, it doesn't negate the fact that the last 7 games we've been outscored 3-1. We just for whatever reason, our last 7 home conference games we've been outscored 3-1. It's not good enough.
The one that hurts right now, it's like, all right, Ole Miss is playing great. Texas is a national contender. LSU's lost 3 games in a row since they came in here to Arkansas and laid waste to them. And I thought that team would play better, but it turns out they're not as good as they were that day.
No, that's the game where that secondary started to come apart, which still, to me, is a mystery. I would like for somebody over there will tell me at some point. It's usually a year or 2 later, and somebody that will be a part of that will come out and say, oh, yeah, here's what happened, and then you'll know. But something happened with those guys, and hopefully that's all over now, and they'll be back to their old selves. And then I think they're going to make some guys. I think there's going to be some changes. Sam always does that. I wish we could look ahead and see what those changes will be. I don't think it'll be a quarterback. In fact, I'm not sure that Singleton will be here next year. I don't know anything about him. I haven't talked to him, obviously, but he's ready to play somewhere. He's just not going to be the starter here. And if so, then you move up K.J. Jackson, who's a guy that, as a true freshman last spring, just caught my eye. I loved what I saw out of him. So he could be the backup next year.
Mike, we're out of time. We'll leave it there. I appreciate you hopping on with us today. Have a great week.
Okay, see you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Irwin, Pig Trail Nation. Always appreciate his time. Mondays on Halftime.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your #1 source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.